Hi, everyone, and welcome. Today's discussion is a very important one for anyone who wants to live a happier life and achieve success. Today's discussion is about understanding stress, what it truly is, how it affects both our body and mind, and most importantly, how we can effectively manage it to lead a healthier, more balanced life. Stress is the quiet companion of our journey through life, a force as ancient and ubiquitous as the breath that sustains us. It resides in the undercurrent of our experiences, sometimes whispering, sometimes shouting, but always present. It is not merely a nuisance or a threat. Rather, stress is a deeply rooted survival mechanism, a biological and psychological response designed to keep us safe and responsive. Yet in our modern lives, where threats are less about immediate survival and more about enduring pressures, stress often becomes a chronic condition that quietly corrodes well-being and distorts our perceptions. To understand stress is not to banish it, but to befriend it, decode it, and learn to respond with awareness and intention. Stress arises the moment we perceive that the demands of a situation outstrip the resources we believe we have to handle them. This could be a lack of time, energy, emotional resilience, or even perceived competence. It is important to note the word perceive, because stress is not strictly about external events, but rather about how we interpret them. In its most manageable form, stress acts as a helpful signal. It energizes us, sharpens our focus, and enhances our performance. A moderate level of stress before an important meeting or a sports event can help us concentrate and bring our best selves forward. It increases alertness, prompts action, and fuels motivation. Historically, this arousal response served a critical purpose. Our ancestors survived largely because of their ability to react quickly to threats, such as a predator's approach or a sudden natural hazard. These threats triggered the fight or flight response, a series of physiological changes that primed the body to either confront or escape danger. This system, governed primarily by the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal HPA axis, continues to function in modern humans. When we face what we interpret as a threat, whether it's an angry email from a boss or the mounting responsibilities of daily life, the same internal alarms are sounded. At its biological core, stress begins in the brain. When a potential stressor is perceived, the hypothalamus sends signals to the adrenal glands, prompting the release of hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol. Adrenaline prepares the body for immediate action. It increases heart rate, boosts blood pressure, and enhances the delivery of oxygen to muscles. Cortisol, on the other hand, plays a more prolonged role. It helps regulate metabolism, controls inflammation, and maintains fluid balance. However, it also suppresses non-essential functions like digestion and immunity during high-stress periods to conserve energy for immediate survival. These hormonal shifts can have significant physiological effects. Muscles tighten, breath becomes shallow, and senses are heightened. In the short term, this can be beneficial. But when stress becomes chronic, when the body is persistently flooded with stress hormones without a real release or resolution, the wear and tear accumulate. Chronic stress has been linked to numerous health problems, including hypertension, cardiovascular disease, gastrointestinal disorders, insomnia, anxiety, depression, and impaired immune function. The modern stressors we face, deadlines, financial strain, relationship conflicts, existential uncertainty, are not resolved by running away or physically confronting the problem. Therefore, the biological system, designed for short bursts of survival, becomes maladaptive when activated repeatedly. Over time, with no rest or recovery. While stress manifests physically, it is fundamentally psychological in nature. It emerges not just from what happens to us, but from how we interpret and react to those happenings. This is where the concept of cognitive appraisal comes into play, a term coined by psychologist Richard Lazarus. According to Lazarus, stress arises when we evaluate a situation as threatening and simultaneously believe that we do not have adequate coping resources. It is this interpretation, rather than the objective nature of the stressor, that determines our stress response. Two people may face identical circumstances, say a looming presentation at work. One may perceive it as an opportunity to showcase skills and gain recognition, while the other may see it as a minefield of potential failure and embarrassment. Their stress responses will differ accordingly. This subjective experience underscores the deeply personal nature of stress. Our past experiences, core beliefs, values, personality traits, and even our cultural background all influence how we assess and respond to potential stressors. Moreover, our inner dialogue, what we say to ourselves when facing a challenge, plays a crucial role. Catastrophic thinking, perfectionism, and all-or-nothing thinking can amplify stress. The belief that one must succeed at all costs or that any failure is a disaster sets an impossibly high bar, creating perpetual tension and dissatisfaction. One of the most insidious aspects of stress is its tendency to grow unnoticed. It does not always announce itself with dramatic panic attacks or emotional breakdowns. Often, it accumulates quietly, camouflaged by busyness, normalized by modern culture, and internalized as a necessary part of success. People may live in a constant state of low-grade stress without even recognizing it, mistaking tension for productivity or worry for care. The early signs of stress are often subtle: shallow or erratic breathing, tension in the shoulders or neck, irritability, a racing mind, or trouble sleeping. Emotional signals might include feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or emotionally numb. Behavioral cues may show up as procrastination, withdrawal, overworking, or reliance on unhealthy coping mechanisms like overeating, drinking, or excessive screen time. Developing awareness of these early signals is crucial. Mindfulness, the practice of paying attention to the present moment with openness and curiosity, can help in identifying stress responses as they begin. Through mindfulness, individuals learn to become observers of their internal states, recognizing physical sensations and thought patterns before they spiral into full-blown stress responses. Managing stress requires a dual approach, one that soothes the physical body and another that addresses the cognitive and emotional dimensions. These two aspects are deeply interwoven. A tense body can intensify anxious thoughts, just as anxious thoughts can tighten the body. Therefore, effective stress management often begins with practices that calm the nervous system. Breathing techniques are among the most accessible and powerful tools. Deep, slow breathing, especially diaphragmatic or belly breathing, activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest and relaxation. It counters the fight or flight response and tells the brain that it is safe to stand down. Just a few minutes of intentional breathing can lower heart rate, reduce muscle tension, and shift mental states from panic to presence. Movement is another powerful ally. Regular physical activity helps metabolize stress hormones and releases endorphins, natural mood elevators. Exercise doesn't need to be intense. Even a short walk in nature can provide immediate relief. Movement also reconnects us with our bodies, which are often neglected or pushed past their limits during periods of stress. Alongside physical regulation, cognitive strategies are essential. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, techniques can be particularly effective in managing the thought patterns that fuel stress. One such technique is thought challenging, where individuals examine the validity of their anxious thoughts and replace them with more balanced and realistic interpretations. For instance, instead of thinking, "I'll fail and lose my job if I don't get this report perfect," one might reframe it as, "I've faced similar challenges before and managed. I can do my best, and that's enough." Practicing self-compassion is another crucial element. Many people respond to stress with self-criticism, believing that if they were stronger, smarter, or more organized, they wouldn't be struggling. But research by psychologist Kristen Neff and others has shown that self-compassion, not harsh self-judgment, is associated with greater emotional resilience and lower stress. A self-compassionate response might sound like, "This is a tough moment, and it's okay to feel overwhelmed. I'm doing the best I can." While immediate stress management techniques are helpful, long-term resilience depends on the daily choices and structures we create. A life built on chronic overcommitment, lack of sleep, poor diet, and disconnection from others is a breeding ground for burnout. Conversely, a life that prioritizes balance, rest, nourishment, and connection is one that fortifies the individual against stress. Sleep, in particular, is foundational. It is during sleep that the brain consolidates memories, processes emotions, and resets stress hormone levels. Chronic sleep deprivation exacerbates stress, reduces emotional regulation, and impairs decision-making. Establishing a consistent sleep routine, limiting screen time before bed, and creating a calming bedtime ritual can significantly enhance both rest and stress resilience. Nutrition also plays a central role. Blood sugar fluctuations caused by processed foods, caffeine, and irregular eating can mimic or amplify the physical symptoms of stress. Eating balanced meals with whole foods, especially those rich in omega-3 fatty acids, magnesium, and complex carbohydrates, can stabilize mood and energy levels. In addition, digital boundaries are becoming increasingly essential. The modern world offers constant connectivity but little true rest. The brain was not designed to handle 24/7 notifications, endless emails, and the curated lives on social media. Scheduling digital detoxes, setting limits on screen time, and carving out tech-free spaces in the day helps preserve attention, restore calm, and protect mental clarity. Equally vital is human connection. Isolation is both the cause and effect of stress. Talking to a trusted friend, mentor, therapist, or support group can provide perspective and relief. The simple act of being heard, of having one's experience validated, can dramatically reduce the weight of stress. Relationships provide not only emotional support, but also a sense of belonging, purpose, and shared humanity. Ultimately, the goal is not to eliminate stress, an impossible and undesirable aim, but to transform our relationship with it. Stress, at its best, is a messenger. It signals when something matters to us, when a boundary is being crossed, or when a part of us needs attention and care. Instead of seeing stress as the enemy, we can begin to ask, what is this stress trying to tell me? What am I needing right now? This shift in mindset is profoundly empowering. When stress is no longer a threat, but a cue for mindful action, we reclaim agency. We become more attuned to our needs, more deliberate in our choices, and more compassionate with ourselves. Over time, we build a toolset of practices, breathing, movement, reframing, connection, that enable us to respond rather than react. Each encounter with stress becomes an opportunity for growth, a chance to learn a new skill, to deepen awareness, to reconnect with what truly matters. We stop running from stress and start learning from it. In the final analysis, managing stress is not about finding a one-time fix. It is about cultivating a lifelong relationship with ourselves, a conversation that honors both our aspirations and our limits. It calls us to embrace balance, to work with dedication, but also to rest without guilt, to strive for excellence without self-punishment, to face challenges with courage, but also accept when we need help. Resilience is not the absence of stress, but the ability to meet it with grace and adaptability. It is the quiet strength that arises from knowing we can bend without breaking, fall and still rise, pause and still progress. It is the art of living with openness, flexibility, and a deep trust in our capacity to grow. In choosing to understand stress, not fear it, we make space for healing, wisdom, and strength. We become not just survivors of stress, but students of it, and in doing so, we carve a path toward a more compassionate, balanced, and resilient way of being.